Hello and welcome to episode 2 of the 450 Moto3 Garage Build. Before we get started, I just want to say thank you so much for all of the positive feedback that I got on the first video. It is much appreciated. So what we're going to be doing in this episode, we're going to be making the back bracket assembly for the motor out of chunks of aluminium. So we'll be putting it on the mill and going through the process of making it all, and then finally getting the sub-assembly built up so that we can get the engine mounted into the frame on the back. After that, we can then start to think about how we're going to design and fit the front arms and the mounts to the engine. So I know some of you are probably thinking, what on earth is a milling machine? So I thought before we get started, I'd just give you a little demonstration of my mill to give you a bit of an idea of how it works. So essentially we've just got the mill here, we've got this flat area which is called the table. It moves left to right on these little handles at the side. You can also move it back and forth, so that's the y-axis, and these ones control the x-axis. Your cutter or your drill or whatever you're using can sit in the collet system or chuck here on the quill in the spindle. That moves up and down, that's called the z-axis. This is like a fine adjustment, and then we've got also the head that can move up and down there. Connected to it is this digital readout, so as I move the table it also moves the figures there. Essentially it's a very accurate way of measuring where the table is in relation to the spindle. So that's what we use. We can control the speed of the spindle as well on these little dials, faster and slower. And that's basically it. It's a manual version. In industry you get these computer controlled. And yeah, we'll get started. So we've got a bit of a better view of the brackets here, looking down from within the frame. You can see that the engine has to be offset in the frame here, which is why this bracket is a really kind of weird bent shape. So to start with, I think I'm going to take the path of least resistance and go with the easy one. But first things first is we've got to make a drawing. The fashionable headwears make another reappearance, but needs must, you know. So to do a drawing, I've got this whiteboard here. I'm just going to draw around the profile of the wooden template. Where do I want it to be? We'll stick it there. So if I draw around that, when I actually come to machine the profile up on the mill, I'm just going to be doing a similar thing really. The profile doesn't need to be that accurate, so if I draw on it and then cut to this shape, that's just going to be good enough. But what is important is these holes and the position of them. So we've got this hole here which is a diameter 10 millimeters, and then we've got this one here which is a diameter of 17 millimeters. The bottom one is the same. But what I really need to know, and what is crucial, is the position of the center line of these holes, or the pitch to each other. So if I take this one as my datum, essentially I just want to know what that size is. In addition to that, from the center line of the 17 mil hole, I need to know what that size is. And then the only other dimension I really need to know is what distance this is away from the center line again. So you'd see me measure the pitch between the two 10mm holes against the frame, because it's really important that the bracket mates up perfectly to the frame. The rest of the dimensions though, I've actually taken off the wooden template that I'd made. Again, using a combination of the digi-caliper and then a rule, scribing up and measuring it out. So we've completed it there, we've got a full set of dimensions. As I say, the only important things really is the distance of the holes. The rest of the profile can just float around, providing that it does clear the swing arm. So yeah, we'll get this marked out onto a block of alley and get started. So I'm going to use an assortment of clamps to lock it down onto the table. So we found the centre of the hole, and next thing we're going to come and do is just zero off the DRO, use that as our datum point. So we'll turn the speed up and we just centre that to start with. It's important to centre it to allow the 10mm drill not to wander and follow it. We go ahead and drill it. So if we move the table now up to 168. When I get to 168. Overshot it. So just a quick check to make sure that the bolt goes in. Which it does. So now I'm swapping over from the chuck to a collet system. So I'm using a 15mm drill with 16mm shank, and I think we'll use that one. So I've swapped over to a boring head now. So what I need to do is take a 15mm hole size out to a 17mm hole size. So what this actually does, it's a single point cut, and there's actually this little boring bar on the end here, and you can move this out and in depending on what size hole you want to cut. So it spins round and opens a hole up to a different size. Doing tonight in the garage is just tidying up the profile now of the mounts. So on the mill here I've set up a rotary table, so this device just bolts straight to the bed of the machine there, and essentially you just turn this handle round and it rotates the table. You can measure what degrees you're moving it around, but this is what I'm going to use to just get the profile correct. These rotary tables are really good for cutting the radiuses, so I can put the nice corners on all the edges. So yeah. So when I drew up this bracket before on the whiteboard, there's one really important dimension that I missed off, and that's the thickness of it. Why that is because this bracket locates against a non-adjustable location on the frame, so in turn sets the position side to side of the motor in the frame, and that in turn sets the front sprocket alignment to the rear sprocket. So it's really important to get this right to make sure that the chain is bang on aligned. When I did the MC300i, it took me a long time of trial and error to actually get that position right, and I got it wrong to start with, which meant I made the bracket too thin, so I ended up having to shim it out a little bit. Eventually one day I might make a new bracket for it. So with this one, thankfully, I'm hoping that this position from the engine mount here to the centre of the sprocket is the same as the 300. I'm going to take a bit of a gamble. I've roughly measured it and I think it is. So I know exactly what thickness I'm going to make this, and I drew it out before. It was 22.6mm. So using the micrometer here, I've got a measurement of 24.37 at the moment. So I've got a little bit of material to come off. As you can see, I've milled up one side of it on the mill. We've got the profile all done now. So I've just got to clamp it down to the bed of the machine and bring that down to size now. So I've got both sides of the bracket machined up now and all the profile. This is going to be the mounting bolt for the engine. It's the same, which is a swing arm bolt for the bike. Just taken it, recycled it from it. But as you can see, it's got a little flat on it. So when we pop it into the bracket, I'm going to machine a little slot in it so that the bolt sits in and just can't rotate then. We have gone from cedar aided design to the finished article. So here it is. This is the first rear engine mount complete now in aluminium, ready to go on the bike. So I'm just spending a bit of time now going around it with a needle file, just taking off any burrs, putting the last finishing touches to it, and yeah, I'll be ready to go. So the next job now is to make this other one, the right hand rear engine mount. It's going to be a bit more complex. There's a lot more material to remove. This is the billet that I'm going to use to make it out of, so as you can see, it's a lot larger. I've already spent a bit of time chopping this down on the mill because it was a billet about this size. Just makes it a bit more manageable, and yeah, we'll get started. I know that doesn't look like much. You can see all the marks on there, but I can assure you that's exactly what I need to actually make this component. So I've scribed it all up, all the portions I need to chop and angles I need to do, and the profile. And yeah, it gives me a guide to where to cut to. Right, so a bit of a progress update. I'm doing the bent bracket at the moment, and the one disadvantage to having a small mill is you can only take small cuts. So in some spare time this week, I've been sat here at the mill, cranking on the handle, making a right mess, and don't worry, I've hoovered that up several times. But as you can see, it's coming to. So we've got that U shape now. I've got a little bit left to rough out, and then I'll be on to the finishing cuts, where I'm going to be tilting the head. So I've never actually done this before. I'm going to angle the head over so that I can do the angles. So yeah, just sort of check in, see how we're getting on. I've not filmed too much of it, just because it's pretty boring watching me stood there cranking the handle away. But I'll get on with it and I'll show you guys what we're up to next. So if you didn't know, I work at an engineering company, and a lot of the guys that I work with were saying on some of the last videos, "Oh Luke, you don't wear your safety glasses." Well, I've got this lovely plastic screen here that protects, you know, the chips flying out, and I haven't had anything in my eye yet. But one thing I do wear is this face mask, because aluminium's not really something you want to be breathing in. I certainly don't anyway, so I'll put this on just while I'm cutting loads of heavy cuts. Stops me breathing in the aluminium. I often get people asking me if I do all this by myself, and I can't take all the credit. I do have one employee. He's about the same age as me. He works very hard, never complains, and his name is Henry. So yeah, he puts in a shift around here, especially when I'm doing work on the milling machine and there's absolute swarf and everything anywhere. So yeah, employee of the month right here. So it's at this moment I've realised I have gravely messed up. I haven't got the space. So I've got the head on the right angle to machine the flats, and then now it's just going to clash up here. This guard can't go that way. The little bracket there can't go because of the clamp. I've absolutely messed up. Gonna have to rethink this. So I've scratched my head for a few minutes here, and I've got a different approach now. So plan B, instead of end cutting with the cutter, I'm actually going to side cut with the cutter, which means I can have a shallower approach of the head. I didn't really want to do it. I like having that lovely, you know, machine finish like that instead of the side cut of the tool, but you know, I can't do it any other way, so this is the way we're going to do it. So there's me preaching about safety before, and now I've had to take the guard off, so safety first. So we're getting super creative now with the setups. So I've got to mill this external radius on it now. So I've got the rotary table back up on the bench. Got a really precarious clamp situation going on, just very lightly clamping it because I don't want to bend it. So yeah, we'll see if it works. So this evening we are taking a break from working in the garage and we're going up to the Isle of Man Motorcycles and Open Face Racer Bike Night. So I'm taking out the Aprilia. Haven't been out on it in a little while, so it'd be nice to get a run out over the mountain road. So back home now, after a very cold ride over the mountain road. It was a really good event, that bike night. About 180 bikes turned up, an assortment of loads of different types of bikes. Really good to see, really good to get out with the biking community. But yeah, more bikes. And yeah, better get back to building a bike now. So I'm back to it now after a few nights off following the bike meet the other night. Just needed a bit of a break. What we have done, we have finished off the aluminium brackets. These things, I'm really proud of how they've turned out. Making them on the little milling machine isn't the easiest thing to do, it's very time consuming, but they've turned out a lot better than I anticipated they would do. So what we've got to do now, I've taken the swing arm pivot bolt out of the 450 and I'm going to chop it down and use it as the rear engine mounting bolt. I did the same thing on the 300 build. And it worked out really great. Unfortunately, I can't just chop it and then cut a thread onto it because it's actually wasted away in the middle. So what I'm going to do is cut it, shorten it, and then weld it up in the middle. Now, although I know a lot of people might say that, you know, it's a high tensile bolt, if you weld it, it's not going to have the same properties. And there's a lot of truth to be said in that, but the application of this, it's not going to be under the same stresses that a swing arm pivot bolt would have.
There we have it.
The swing arm isn't going to be mounted through this on the new build, and it's just to hold the engine in with the mounts at the back of the chassis there. It worked out for the 300, very same application, so I'm going to give it a go. Right, I'm about to crack the TIG welder out, but before I do, I thought I'd show you the setup that I've got on the spindle bolt here. So I've obviously cut it now to the right length, I've chamfered it, but I've got it set up in 2 V-blocks. This is so that I know that's perfectly aligned. I've lined them up as best I can that way as well. I've got a 10mm drill here, it's a 10mm hole, it's a pretty snug fit, and it spins freely all the way through into the next one. So I know it's perfectly aligned. So we'll go ahead and put the tacks on. I cannot for the life of me find my welding gloves, so bike gloves will have to do. Right. I've finished welding around the full circumference of the spindle now, and what I'm going to do next is just check it for run out, and by that I mean, is the end of it bent? So to do that, I've clamped a V-block to the table of the mill, and I've set up a dial test indicator on a mag base as well. So I'm just going to pop that in there and then rotate it round. Yeah, you see, I've got about 0.15 of a mil of run out. So obviously the heat distortion on the part has caused it to pull one direction or the other. It can be corrected by heating one area up locally, and as the material contracts, it pulls back up one side of it. So I'm going to try and do that now to see if we can get this running any better. I've got that running a lot more true now. Locally heating it up in one area with the TIG torch has brought it back within about 0.08, so I've halved the difference, which in old money is about 0.03 of an inch. I'm more than happy with that. That's perfectly adequate for what it's doing. So yeah, really happy with that. One slight issue I've got now is obviously in the centre of this I've got a big lump now where the weld was. So what I'm going to do is stick it back into the lathe and just skim up the top and make sure that's nice and flush. So if you have made it to the end of this video, I thank you very much for that. So as you see, I've made everything that I need now for the rear sub-assembly engine mounts. So I thought I'd take the opportunity to put it in the bike. So here it is. As you can see, those rear engine mounts fit absolutely perfectly and clear the swing arm really nice. The engine fits really central in the frame, which I'm super happy about. The clearance on this side and the bolt there looks absolutely great. As you can see, I'm going to have to notch the frame to accommodate the clutch cover. I don't really know what I'm going to do with that arm yet, but yeah, I'm getting really excited about this build. The Isle of Man TT is just around the corner here on the Isle of Man, and with all the bikes turning up, it's really giving me the motivation to get this bike finished and get a move on with it. I did take the bike out to the Ramsey motorcycle show that I co-organise, and chatting to a few people there, they're really excited to see it as well. So episode 3, I'll try and make sure it's not that far away, but I've got a lot of work to do in the meantime before that. Making these front engine mounts fit, it's going to be a little bit tricky. I've got to do some side mounts through the frame into the top of the cylinder head as well. So yeah, it's all really exciting. I hope you've enjoyed it. It's been great showing you guys the process again. So yeah, tune in next time. Thank you very much.